Classic WoW is dying. I know right now it might not seem like it, but it is. If you're someone who's been playing within the last month, you might be thinking to yourself how wrong I am. But it's true. Classic is on borrowed time. The only reason the game is popular right now is because of the introduction of Hardcore and the lull between patches in retail WoW. Before the Hardcore add-on was introduced, Classic servers were pretty much dead, and once the honeymoon phase is over on the Hardcore server wears off, we'll be back to square one again. I know there is a lot of talk right now about Classic Plus, and with BlizzCon right around the corner, if there ever was a time for them to announce it, it'd be then. So with this video I wanted to highlight the problem with Classic and issues that it has with player retention, and explain how Blizzard can keep people around indefinitely. The obvious answer here is Classic Plus, but we're going to also go over some other more easier methods that they can do too. So that's what this video is about. And before we begin, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that way you are always one of the first people to get notified of my latest videos. Let's talk about Classic Plus first, as I feel this is the more hot topic of the community and the most logical and most hyped feature for Classic. It's pretty clear why because of the implications of Classic Plus, and I don't really want to spend 10 minutes talking about how I think Classic Plus should be implemented because I feel like there are a ton of videos out there already on how this could work. So with this video, we'll just kind of briefly go over some of the more noteworthy features as to why Classic Plus will be awesome. First up is content. If Blizzard was to fully commit to Classic Plus, that would mean that they would need an entire team working on the game to produce new content for us to do. This means new dungeons, new raids, class balancing, new quest lines, improvements to the game, and who knows, maybe even full-on expansions. This is the kind of stuff that gets me excited. If Blizzard were to keep on making new content and expansions by keeping within the spirit of Classic, I think it would even surpass retail as far as popularity, or at the very least rival it. Of course, the major hurdle for Classic Plus to become a reality is the fact that they would need an entire team to do it. This means writers, coders, artists, a story group, everything that retail WoW has, they would need for Classic Plus. Granted, their team size probably wouldn't need to be as big as retail, but it would still be pretty sizable to say the least. So it would not be cheap. And on top of that, it also means taking some members from the team on retail, which would also mean that we wouldn't be getting as big of content updates as we have been seeing in Dragonflight. And that really sucks because the cadence of patches coming out in Dragonflight is kind of insane. But if they were to fully commit to Classic Plus, then I could see the game staying popular and being relevant for years to come. Another solution to the problem is Season of Mastery. I know, the first iteration of this didn't do so well. Trust me, I was there. But Blizzard did confirm that a new Season of Mastery is in the works, and that they have been working on it for a while now, which makes me curious as to what's going on and what's going to be different this time. In theory, if they didn't do Classic Plus, a well-implemented and put out Season of Mastery could do very well, but they would need to make some pretty big changes for players to be encouraged to play. I'm not talking about just making raid bosses a little harder to kill, I'm talking like massive changes. Things like add new mechanics to not only raid bosses, but also dungeon bosses. Maybe even adding new bosses to the dungeons altogether. Going back and creating new areas inside the dungeon, or even taking unused spaces in the world and just adding some new things over there to do. Of course, they would also need to do balance changes. There's no reason why we can't have things like balance druids or ret paladins doing more damage in raids and dungeons. My point here is that Season of Mastery will need to really transform the game in order to give players some exciting reasons to come back. Just look at games like Path of Exile and their seasons. Each season in that game literally adds a new game mechanic that players can start messing with at level 1. Something similar would need to be added into Season of Mastery. An example that I just kind of thought out of the top of my head is like, imagine if they added sockets and gems to the game. Killing off different mobs could empower certain gems, which would essentially be like leveling up the gem. Once a gem is a certain level, it does more powerful things. Like if you found a frost gem, you could level it up by killing water elementals, and eventually the gem would start giving you some really cool frost powers, and adding cold damage to your attacks and spells. But again, that's just kind of like a thing I just thought out of the top of my head, but you guys get the point. This next idea is one that's probably the most cost-effective one for Blizzard to do, and that is to just keep releasing fresh servers every 6 months. Enough time to slowly roll out each major content patch on the servers and give them time to do all the new content. The idea here is that there is never a time where you have done all the content and you're just sitting around with nothing to do, because eventually it'll all be reset and you'll have to do it all over again. I think something as simple as having some servers where they're always resetting is actually something that will have a large appeal to many players. When you think about what makes Classic popular, it's the journey and not the destination. Part of what makes the journey fun is that there are other people out there doing it alongside with you. You're on an equal playing field with your peers, and the world feels alive because everyone's out there doing the world stuff. Just look at these two games. Rust and Conan Exiles. Both of these games are in similar genres. Both are survival games, albeit Rust is an FPS and Conan is more of an action combat game. One of these games is incredibly popular to this day, and the other one is pretty much dead. You want to take a guess why? It's because the servers that people play on with Rust do wipes. It depends on the server, but many of the servers on Rust have weekly wipes, others are bi-weekly, and some are monthly. Conan Exiles servers never wipe unless there is a major update to the game, and those very rarely happen. Now, Conan Exiles does have a ton of bugs, but I think the majority of the reason why people don't play this game very often is because the servers don't reset. The point I'm trying to make here is that a lot of people don't want to jump into something when people have been doing it for a long time and they're just way ahead of you. I think more people would feel inclined to jump in on something if the server is wiped often. At least in their head, it makes them feel like they have a shot at catching up. Let me ask you guys a hypothetical question. If you had an option between playing on two separate servers, which one would you pick? Would you pick the first server where there is no raid bosses have been killed yet and most players are still out there leveling and running around in the different zones? Or would you choose to play on a server that's been live for a bunch of years, all the bosses have been killed years ago and people are just raid logging? I'm sure you guys would probably pick the first one, right? Now, why would you pick that server over the second one? It's because you feel like you're more close to the majority of the player base and the server feels more alive. Another thing I want to talk about is a major, massive missed opportunity for Blizzard, and the fact that they haven't cashed in on this yet is kind of crazy. And that's the fact that I feel like they should be adding rewards to basically transfer over to retail from Classic. What I mean by this is like, for example, on hardcore servers, if you were to hit level 60 without dying, you should get some kind of reward on your retail servers, maybe like a transmog armor or something. And then you could even take it a step further than that. What if you were able to kill every single raid boss on hardcore? Maybe you get something really cool looking. My point here is like, they really need to add some kind of like incentives for retail players to switch over and try Classic. I really feel like it probably wouldn't translate very well for the opposite. But at the very least, I feel like they could definitely get more players jumping in and, trying out new things, because at the end of the day, people love to show off items that are really hard to get. But either way, these are the 3 ways that I think Blizzard can keep Classic alive, because let's be honest, anything past Wrath is not Classic. Keta or any expansion past that will be popular for like a week or two, and then it's going to be dead. Nobody, aside from a small minority of players, want to go back to Cataclysm. I just think that it's a waste of resources to focus on things like that. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. But speaking of thoughts, what are you guys thinking? I'd love to hear what you guys think about my ideas. Sound off in the comments section if you guys agree with me or disagree. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm still Solo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.